It's Hometown Radio here on KVEC. I'm Suzan Vaughn in for Dave Congalton today and proud to be here. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. We really appreciate you tuning into Hometown Radio. In this half hour, I'm going to be talking about animal communication. So one of the most interesting clients that I've had recently was a woman who had a koi fish. So I hadn't tuned into a koi fish before, and I really enjoy new species. So I was kind of excited to see what was happening with this koi fish by the name of Goldie. So Goldie showed me swimming in a very erratic way. You know, she was swimming sideways and then upside down and all kinds of strange ways. So her person wanted to take her to the fish vet. She had a special veterinarian who specialized in fish and knew a lot about koi. So she wanted to know if Goldie would be willing to go to the vet. So going to the vet is a pretty big deal for any animal. But for a fish, it's really big because, for one thing, for the most part, there's a general anesthetic that is given so that they can examine the fish body well. And in the case of Goldie, that's what the client wanted to know. Is Goldie okay? My answer was no. Goldie's not okay and is feeling very as if it's like vertigo. When you turn into the fish body of Goldie, you really feel disoriented, like you're dizzy and you're at a height. So it's kind of a vertigo feeling. So I say, no, Goldie is not okay. And let me ask if Goldie's willing to go to the vet. So Goldie said, yeah, I'm willing. I'm willing to get help with this. So this was after a long conversation telepathically with Goldie to show her everything. How will she be transported? What will they do? What is an X-ray? What are they, what is the anesthetic like? How will I travel there? So I gave all this information to Goldie, and she said, yes, I would like to get some help. So another thing that she wanted to know was, how are you planning to take me out of the koi pond? So the woman who was my client said, hey, I'm planning to just put a net in there and take her out. So Goldie said, if you would not do that, I would be very grateful. She said, if you will put a container in here that kind of, you just put an empty container down into the water, then I will swim in there. And then the container will be filled with the water that I'm already used to. So the woman who was my client said, great, no problem, I can do that. So she put the container down into the water and Goldie swam right in. Well, that's another way you can tell. I mean, you normally don't have a koi that comes out of the group of fish, the school of fish, and swims into some kind of foreign container. So, I mean, you can tell something's going on there, right? So Goldie swam into the container, and the container was taken to the vet, and the vet did the x-rays and found there was a problem with Goldie's swim bladder. So if you look at the anatomy of a fish, you can see that a swim bladder is a pretty large thing in the body of a fish, and it's kind of around the stomach in a way, but it's a pretty big organ. And the veterinarian did some, I'm not sure if the veterinarian took air out of the swim bladder or put medication into the swim bladder, but whatever it was, it fixed Goldie right up. So when Goldie went back to the koi pond, she swam kind of to the bottom and hung out there to get through the healing. So she went into a little darker place and kind of stayed at the bottom to go through the healing, and eventually came back out into the school of fish. So essentially, Goldie's life was saved by the communication, which was wonderful for me. I love it when that happens. And the client asked me to tune into the rest of the entire koi population. So that was pretty fun. At first, I was like, "Oh, I've never done that. So let me see how that works." But each of the koi, the woman had pictures of the koi. So she would point out the picture of the one that she wanted to hear from next and so forth. And I had pictures of, a dozen fish that I was working with. The cool thing about telepathy is that it's not constricted by time or space. So 90% of my clients are all over the United States. I work by phone, and they send me a picture. So I'm with them on the phone and the picture of the animal, and it's a three-way conversation. So after this, then we tuned into the entire pond of koi. So the cool thing about it was that each one of the fish was totally different in personality, in perspective, in how it related to the other fish, how it related to a little school of goldfish that was in the koi pond, and all different things. The client was asking me, how do they feel about this little school of goldfish? So as I tuned into the little school of goldfish, they were kind of all crowded into this one corner, and they felt a bit pursued by the larger fish. So they were a little nervous there, and they were always pointed toward this dark corner. They didn't really swim around much, which was confirmed by the client. So the school of goldfish, a very interesting group there, because the woman was asking me, should I separate the goldfish? So the goldfish were saying, yeah, we want some protection. That instinctively we feel somewhat pursued by the larger fish. So, but when I was chatting with the koi fish, there was one koi in particular. It was kind of a black and gold and silver, had lots of different colors. It was really a beautiful fish. And it told me, I'm not like the other koi in here. I'm friends with the goldfish group. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I asked the woman, I told her, this is what this koi fish is saying. She's saying, wow, that's interesting. That koi is the only one that hangs out over there with the goldfish. The rest of them, are kind of back from the goldfish. So there was a lot of really interesting information from her and from the different fish. There was another koi fish. Let me tell you, koi fish can live, they've been documented up to 200 years old. Isn't that incredible? I think the oldest documented one was like 246 years old. They told me at Austin's Wet Pets in Napomo, who are experts in the koi fish. And I want to really thank them for helping me get educated on koi after this, because I was really fascinated. So for the most part, it's 25 to 35 years old for a koi, but they can be up to 100, 200 years old. It's amazing. They're really ancient beings. So I saw one in this group that was sunburned, and I didn't know really what it was until I did some research. But its slick kind of outer skin was kind of flaking off, and it was in a pond where there wasn't enough shade for it. So particularly light-colored koi fish can become sunburned, and that was an interesting lesson. And then as I tuned into each one, I found another koi fish that was sick and had some fish bladder trouble. Now, animal communicators don't take the place of a vet, but we can tune into an animal to see what their health is like, or to look in the body to see if we can find any blockages or places that kind of stand out for us. It sort of... when you're doing a body scan as a animal communicator, you start at the tip of the nose of the animal and you start going down. Well, your consciousness kind of stops at some point, and it really won't let you go on with the body scan until you figure out what's there. A lot of animals are stopped at the teeth, so you want to look in the mouth and ask, is there some kind of problem with the tooth or teeth? Yes. So that's how a body scan works. You look for blockages or different things that you can see. You don't give diagnoses, but you give an area to look for further investigation. So one of the koi fish, really interesting, it had an accident in which the pond had overflowed. So there was too much water in the pond, and it ended up on top of a net that was protecting the pond from predators. So it was flopping around out there for quite a while, and it damaged its fins. So the woman was asking me, has this fish recovered from this trauma? So I said, no, not exactly, but she's about 80% there, 75, 80% there. And she says there's something very special about her new fins, because the fins grow back, and they had grown back. She says she had kind of fairy fins, And they were very beautiful and wavy and, delicate. And she just showed me how beautiful they were. And the woman said to me, "Oh, I call her angel fins." So that's some way that information is transmitted by what the animal sends and then what the person confirms. So the koi fish population was a wonderful privilege for me to see what I've been preaching all this time, which is you can't make gross generalizations about animals. Each one is different. Each one has a different point of view, and each one is unique in its own right. And that was brought home to me for sure by the koi pond full of kois.